When the sun rose over Taiwan on April 3, 2024, few could have imagined how profoundly the day would unfold. At 8:07 in the morning, a violent jolt ripped across the island. An earthquake of magnitude 7.4, the most powerful Taiwan had endured in more than a quarter of a century.
里面还有人吗？
What began as an ordinary morning instantly transformed into a moment that would be etched into national memory. High-rise buildings swayed as if made of paper. Storefront windows rattled and shattered. In kitchens and classrooms, objects crashed from shelves. Panicked residents rushed outside, many still in their pajamas, instinctively seeking open ground. For countless people, the shaking felt endless, and the fear overwhelming. The earthquake originated just south of Hualien, a coastal city framed by mountains and the Pacific Ocean. Because the epicenter lay so close to land, only about 11 miles inland, the destructive energy surged straight into the heart of Hualien County. Within minutes, roads split apart, hillside routes collapsed, and bridges twisted into unusable ruins. One of the most haunting scenes emerged from Hualien, where a landslide swept over the town's train station, swallowing carriages and passengers beneath tons of earth and debris. Damage extended far beyond Hualien. Cities across the island, including the capital Taipei, witnessed multi-story buildings tilting, cracking, and in several tragic cases, collapsing entirely. Dust clouds rose over neighborhoods as rescuers and volunteers sprinted toward rubble piles, listening for faint cries from survivors trapped in pockets of broken concrete and steel. The human toll was heartbreaking. At least 9 lives were lost and close to 1,000 people were injured, some critically. Hospitals struggled to keep up as wave after wave of patients arrived with fractures, head injuries, and trauma from falling debris. Medical staff worked for hours without rest, improvising where needed, and comforting families desperate for updates. Infrastructure across Taiwan suffered heavy damage. More than 87,000 homes were plunged into darkness when power lines failed. Bursting water mains turned some streets into pools of brown, swirling water. Communications dropped in several regions, complicating coordination efforts at the very moment they were needed most. The quake's intensity reverberated far beyond the island itself. For a time, tsunami alerts were issued in Taiwan, and even as far as Japan and the Philippines. Coastal communities briefly evacuated toward higher ground, bracing for waves that ultimately never arrived. But the warnings underscored the earthquake's terrifying potential.
汤方，同着地震汤方。哦，你哪家里？我的车在这边。
In the critical hours that followed, Taiwan mobilized one of the largest rescue responses in its recent history. Urban search and rescue teams spread out across the hardest-hit towns, joined by international specialists who flew in to support the mission. Using drones, sniffer dogs, and specialized equipment, crews worked around the clock to locate survivors. Every successful rescue brought brief moments of relief and celebration. A child pulled from debris, an elderly resident carried out safely. But each recovery of a body reminded the nation of the profound loss it had suffered. As days passed and the urgent rescue phase gradually gave way to recovery, the scale of the disaster became clearer. Entire residential blocks were deemed unsafe. Thousands of people were left without homes, relying on temporary shelters for food and safety. Government agencies and local organizations held community meetings to discuss reconstruction plans, while engineers assessed which structures could be repaired and which ones would need to be rebuilt entirely. The financial cost of the disaster reached into the billions. But beyond monetary losses, Taiwan faced a deeper emotional challenge, rebuilding the sense of security that had been shaken to its core.
隧道洞口的全部封掉了，封起来了，我的客人还在。
我不确定有些东西是不是100%它全资，可是最大的那个赛马场跟酿酒厂，那是他自己，他直接把它买下来的。我也是查新闻才知道，你知道吗？所以以前。
Taiwan has long lived with the realities of tectonic forces. Positioned along the Pacific Ring of Fire, the island experiences frequent seismic activity. Over decades, its people built one of the world's strongest cultures of earthquake preparedness. Yet even with strict building codes and regular drills, the 7.4 quake pushed those systems to their limit. In the aftermath, engineers reviewed structural standards, emergency planners reassessed response strategies, and scientists analyzed the quake for clues that might strengthen future readiness. Each lesson learned became a step toward greater resilience.
Just go.
But the story of the earthquake was not defined solely by destruction. It was equally shaped by humanity. The courage of residents who helped neighbors escape collapsing buildings, the determination of volunteers delivering blankets and water to survivors, and the quiet strength of communities comforting one another through shared grief.
想办法救援当中，那处长来了。
倒了，房子倒了，歪了，房子歪了，房子歪了。
Across Taiwan, people supported strangers as if they were family. In shelters, parents kept each other's children entertained. Restaurants cooked free meals for responders. Students organized donation drives. These moments revealed the heart of Taiwan, a society built on compassion, endurance, and unity. For many survivors, the path forward was difficult. Homes needed rebuilding, livelihoods needed restoring, and emotional wounds needed time to heal. Yet through it all, a collective belief emerged that Taiwan would rise again, just as it had after previous disasters. The earthquake of April 3rd became a reminder of nature's immense power, but also of the extraordinary strength found within communities. It underscored the fragility of daily life and the resilience that allows people to rebuild even after the deepest scars. And so, from the ruins of that devastating morning, Taiwan began to shape a future defined not only by loss, but by renewal. The island stood determined to rebuild stronger, wiser, and more united, proving once again that even in the darkest moments, hope finds a way forward.